Okay, let's start with a number today. Billions. I'm talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
It is this absolute economic juggernaut. And sitting right at the center of that history, you have the Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
You think of Mark Ruffalo, the CGI spectacle, the Avengers, all the Disney money. It's a massive industry unto itself.
It is a global phenomenon. I mean, it's hard to imagine pop culture without it now.
But here's where it gets really interesting. If you peel back all those layers, the CGI, the billions, the marketing machine, that entire legacy really rests on the shoulders of one guy.
Mm-hmm.
A character actor from the 1970s who, when he was first offered the role of David Banner, literally said, "I'm not interested."
Right. No, thank you. Please lose my number.
Exactly. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the life of Bill Bixby. And I think for a lot of people, he is just the Hulk guy. Or maybe, if you're a bit older, he's the dad from The Courtship of Eddie's Father. But we've been going through this biography, Bill Bixby Before, The Incredible Hulk, already a star, by J.T. Ames. And what this book uncovers is that the Hulk was really just, the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, absolutely. The Hulk was actually the fourth massive success in a career that was built on what the author calls the grind.
The grind.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to look past the green paint and understand the work ethic behind the fame. Bixby wasn't just an actor. He was a director, a magician, and honestly a tragic figure who worked himself nearly to death.
The work ethic described in this book is it's intense. It borders on obsessive. But to understand why he was like that, we have to go back to the beginning.
That's right.
Because Bixby didn't start as a superhero. He started as a kid in San Francisco with the very specific and honestly kind of terrifying deadline hanging over his head.
To understand Bixby, you have to look at the stock he came from. He was a fifth-generation Californian, born in 1934, an only child. And his mother, Jane, was a huge influence.
Right.
She was a high-powered manager at a department store, very polished, very demanding. And she was the one who really drilled this sense of polished masculinity into him.
And by drilled, the book says she literally forced him into ballroom dancing.
No, she did. I mean, can you imagine a 9-year-old boy in the 1940s being dragged to waltz lessons? Most kids would have rebelled, kicked and screamed.
Oh, for sure.
But Bixby didn't. He embraced it.
Yeah.
And that detail is crucial because later on, directors would constantly comment on his physical grace. Whether he was doing comedy or playing Banner, he just knew how to move his body in space. He had this kinesthetic awareness that most actors have to learn. He got it from childhood.
It's interesting because that physical confidence seems to have paired perfectly with his verbal confidence. The book spends some time on his high school years in the Forensic Society.
The debate team.
Yeah.
He was a star debater. And that is where he learned to read a room. He learned timing, how to hold an audience's attention with just the cadence of his voice.
So all the building blocks are forming.
You can see it. But his parents looked at that skill set. Good at arguing, good at public speaking, and naturally thought,
Lawyer.
perfect, the kid is going to be a lawyer. The classic parental pivot.
You like to talk. Law school.
Exactly. And that leads to the deal. This is probably the most pivotal moment in his early life.
Yeah.
It's in 1954. Bixby is 20. He's done a stint in the Marine Corps Reserves, which toughened him up a bit. And he sits his parents down and drops the bomb. I want to go to Hollywood.
And knowing his parents were these pragmatic, high-powered types, I assume they didn't just write him a blank check and wish him luck.
Far from it. They gave him an ultimatum, a literal contract. He had exactly 5 years.
5 years to what? To become a star.
To make a sustainable living as an actor. If he couldn't support himself by 1959, he had to come home, enroll in law school, and never mention acting again. No arguments.
That is incredible pressure. It turns his entire life into a ticking clock. So he packs his bags, heads to L.A., and the reality check hits immediately.
Oh, it hits hard. He arrives with like $300 in his pocket. And instead of red carpets, he ends up as a bellhop at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel.
Wow.
The book paints this vivid picture of him carrying luggage for movie stars who wouldn't even make eye contact with him. He was just invisible.
That has to be humbling, carrying the bags of the people you are desperate to be while the clock is ticking on your dream.
It was. And for years, that was his life. Bellhop, lifeguard, organizing talent shows at a resort, just scraping by. And that 5-year deadline is getting closer and closer.
And this is where Bixby does something that I found really brilliant. Most actors in that position, they dig in. They stay in Hollywood, wait tables, pray for a break. Bixby did what the book calls the Detroit pivot.
The Detroit pivot. I love this part of the story because it shows how strategic he was. It's 1959. His 5 years are almost up. He is getting nowhere in L.A.
Right.
So instead of quitting, he moves to Detroit to star in industrial training films for GM and Chrysler.
And we should clarify for everyone, these aren't glamorous commercials. We are talking about, like, how to assemble a carburetor videos.
Exactly. Unglamorous, boring, corporate training films, dialogue filled with technical jargon about engine parts and sales techniques. But here's the genius of it. They paid. And more importantly, Bixby treated it as his personal film school.
Because he's on set every single day.
Right. While other actors were in L.A. waiting for the phone to ring, Bixby was in Detroit, working 40 hours a week on a set. He was learning about lenses, blocking how to hit your mark without looking down. He was memorizing these huge amounts of technical dialogue. He was getting his 10,000 hours in.
It's such a smart move. He basically got paid to practice his craft away from all the pressure of Hollywood.
And it paid off. He came back to Hollywood in 1961, and he wasn't a desperate amateur anymore. He was a seasoned pro with a thick resume and a reel.
And things started to happen.
Almost immediately. He landed an agent, booked a recurring spot on the Joey Bishop show, and then a role in a Billy Wilder film, Irma la Douce.
So he beats the deadline, just barely.
By the skin of his teeth. But he did it.
And that leads us to the first major pillar of his career. The show that really put him on the map, My Favorite Martian.
This is 1963.
Yeah.
And the audition story is legendary. He walks in to meet the producer, Jack Chertok. Bixby starts to introduce himself. Hi, I'm Bill Bixby.
Yeah.
And Chertok cuts him off. He just says, no, you're not. You're Tim O'Hara.
Hired just like that, on the spot.
On the spot. He just had the look, the energy. But My Favorite Martian is really where Bixby learns the art of this sitcom. He was paired with Ray Walston, who played the Martian.
The legend.
A Broadway veteran, a master of the craft. And he took Bixby under his wing.
And the book mentions that Walston taught him maybe the most unappreciated lesson of comedy, how to be the straight man.
Which is such a thankless job. You're the one setting up the jokes for someone else to knock down. But Walston taught him that it's about generosity. If you set up your partner to shine, the whole scene shines.
He had to ground the craziness.
He had to. If Bixby didn't sell the reality of having a Martian uncle, the show doesn't work. If he winks at the camera, the illusion is broken. He had to play it completely real.
And that show was a massive hit. It ran for 3 seasons. But then Bixby pivots again. And this is the show that I feel really defines him for a certain generation, the courtship of Eddie's father.
This was a major tonal shift. Martian was silly, high-concept sci-fi. Eddie's father was a dramedy about a widower raising his son. It required heart. It required vulnerability.
And the magic of that show was all about the chemistry between Bixby and the child actor Brandon Cruz.
Oh, absolutely. And the book makes it clear that Bond wasn't just for the cameras.
It's real.
It was profound. Bixby didn't have kids at the time. He treated Brandon Cruz like an equal, not like a prop. They talked about real things. Bixby became a lifelong father figure to him.
And he didn't treat him like the kid.
He treated him like a co-star. Their relationship lasted way, way longer than the show.
This is also where Bixby starts to exert more control, right? He moves behind the camera.
Yes.
Yeah.
He forced his way into directing. He directed 8 episodes of Eddie's Father and discovered he loved it. He loved the control, the storytelling. He wasn't just an actor for hire anymore. He was becoming a filmmaker.
All his hours in Detroit paying off.
Exactly. He understood the whole machine.
So let's look at the scoreboard. He's had 2 massive hits. Most actors would kill for one.
Yeah.
Then comes a show that I feel like people forget, but it sounds incredibly cool. The Magician.
I love the chapter on The Magician. This is 1973. The premise is Bixby plays a wealthy magician who solves crimes. But here is the Bixby grind kicking in again. Most actors would have used camera tricks or doubles.
But not Bixby.
Bixby refused.
So he actually learned the magic. For real.
He went all in. He joined the Magic Castle in Hollywood. He learned to perform actual illusions live on tape. If the script said he made a Corvette disappear, he learned how to stage that illusion, practically. It was that same discipline again.
That is just pure commitment. But this show also highlights a pattern that kept happening to him.
The heartbreak of the industry. The Magician was good. People liked it. But it got canceled after 1 season. A writer's strike, high budget costs.
And it happened before. Martian canceled due to budget. Eddie's father canceled because the network wanted something edgier.
Exactly. Bixby keeps building these amazing things, pouring his soul into them, and the rug just keeps getting pulled out from under him.
Which brings us to 1977. He is 43 years old. He's had 3 shows canceled. He's tired. And then the phone rings. It's Universal. And they want him to play a comic book character.
And you have to understand the context. In 1977, superhero shows were not cool. They were the Adam West Batman. Campy, pow, bam. Bixby was a serious actor. He'd done Ibsen. He'd worked with Billy Wilder.
He did not want to run around in tights.
His immediate reaction was, no, I'm not interested. This is a joke.
So how did they convince him? Because obviously he said yes.
The showrunner, Kenneth Johnson, was brilliant. He knew Bixby wouldn't do a cartoon.
Yeah.
So he told him, Bill, I'm not making a comic book show. I'm making Les Miserables.
Les Mis. That is a bold pitch for the Hulk.
But it worked. He pitched it as a fugitive story. A good man, hunted for a mistake he can't fix, Jean Valjean, wandering from town to town, helping people, but unable to ever find peace.
Yeah.
He sold it as a tragedy, not an action show. He told Bixby, this is a psychological drama about anger.
And Bixby bought it.
He bought it, but he had conditions. And he had one very specific, very fascinating rule regarding his co-star, Lou Ferrigno, who played the Hulk.
What was the rule?
Bixby refused to ever be photographed with Lou Ferrigno in costume.
Never.
Never. Not on set, not for publicity, not for magazines. He believed that if children saw Bill Bixby standing next to the Hulk, it would break the illusion.
Wow.
He wanted the audience to believe that he physically transformed into that creature. If you saw them side by side, the magic was gone. It goes back to his time as the magician. Don't reveal the trick.
That is just respecting the audience on a whole other level. And it worked. That show had a gravitas to it.
It did. And it worked because Bixby played the lonely man. And that's what they called the theme music. He played David Banner with such dignity. You felt his exhaustion. You felt his shame when he woke up with his clothes torn, realizing the monster had been out.
He grounded it.
He grounded the sci-fi elements in genuine human tragedy. He made you care about the man, not just wait for the monster.
But the production sounds brutal.
Oh, it was a killer. 14-hour days, constantly on the road because every episode was in a new town, no home base. They were losing crew members to exhaustion. Bixby was in almost every scene that didn't involve the green guy. He was carrying the show on his back.
And while he's enduring this grueling schedule, his personal life, this is where the story takes a really dark turn.
It does. This is the tragedy behind the fame. In 1981, while the Hulk is still on the air, Bixby's 6-year-old son, Christopher, dies suddenly.
Oh my God, what happened?
It was a rare infection, acute epiglottitis. They went on a ski trip, the boy got a sore throat, doctors thought it was mild, and he was gone. Just like that.
That is unimaginable. And Bixby is the lead on a massive network TV show. How do you even go back to work after that?
The book argues that the work became his salvation. He channeled that grief into David Banner. If you watch the later seasons, there is a heaviness to Bixby's performance that is just, it's very real.
Banner's loneliness wasn't acting anymore?
He was a man who had lost everything. He didn't have anywhere else to put that pain, so he put it on the screen.
And tragically, it didn't stop there.
No. A year later, his ex-wife, Brenda Bennett Christopher's mother, committed suicide.
It's just devastating. A 1-2 punch like that.
Bixby was left completely shattered. But, and this brings us back to that grind, he kept working. He never stopped. He felt that if he stopped, he might never start again.
And even after the show eventually ended, he wasn't done with the character.
In the late 80s, Bixby returned to produce, direct, and star in 3 incredible Hulk TV movies. He essentially took ownership of the franchise. He wanted to give David Banner the closure he never got in the series.
Including directing his own death.
Yes. In The Death of the Incredible Hulk in 1990, Bixby directed the scene where David Banner finally dies. It was his way of saying goodbye to the character and maybe letting go of some of that pain.
It sounds like directing became his primary focus in those later years.
It did. And his final chapter is maybe the most inspiring and heartbreaking of all. In 1991, he was diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer.
But he kept working.
Refused to quit. He became the main director for the sitcom Blossom.
Wait, the 90s show with the hats? Blossom.
That's the one. And Mayim Bialik, who starred in it, has talked about this. She said Bixby was in incredible pain. He was undergoing experimental treatments. There were days he was so weak he couldn't stand up. So he would direct from a reclining chair.
But he was still running the show.
He was. And the amazing thing is, despite the pain, he knew every crew member's name. He never lost his patience. He was this consummate professional, guiding the crew, teaching the young actors, all while he was literally dying.
That's that same work ethic. He was still the bellhop who made it.
He worked on Blossom until literally 6 days before he died in 1993. He worked until his body physically could not do it anymore.
You know, there's a quote in the book from his final interview. I think it sums him up perfectly.
I know the one. He told Entertainment Tonight, "Be good to yourselves Because if you're good to yourselves, you're going to be kind to everybody else.
That hits hard considering everything he went through. I mean, he had every reason to be bitter, to be angry at the world.
It really does. But he chose kindness. He chose to look outward.
So when we look back at Bill Bixby now, obviously the Hulk is the headline. That's the pop culture footprint. But what is the real legacy here that we should take away?
Well, in a very literal sense, he created the template for the modern Hulk. Actors like Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo have explicitly said they studied Bixby. They realize the character isn't about the smashing, it's about the man inside resisting the monster.
He invented that approach.
He invented that tragic, cerebral approach. Without Bixby, the Hulk is just a cartoon.
And there's a personal legacy too, right?
There is. Remember Brendan Cruz, the kid from Eddie's father?
Yeah, the one he mentored.
They stayed close until the very end. Cruz was there for him through the tragedy with his son, through the cancer. And when Brandon Cruz eventually had his own son, do you know what he named him?
What?
Lincoln Bixby Cruz.
Wow. That is powerful.
That tells you everything, you know. The relationships lasted longer than the fame.
It really does. We started this talking about the MCU and the billions of dollars, but reading this, Bill Bixby's story isn't really about superheroes.
No, it's about the grind. It's about showing up. It's about being a bellhop and treating it like film school. It's about losing your son and your wife and still finding the strength to be kind to the crew on a sitcom set.
It's about dignity.
Exactly. The Hulk is famous. But Bill Bixby is the reason why we cared.
Well, that is a lot to think about next time you see a Marvel movie. Be good to yourselves, everyone. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Take care.